Oh, it's working. All right. Hi there. So I'm gonna continue sewing this swoon bag. Um, I I got like 200 views on the last live video, not while I was shooting it, but afterwards. So I guess that means I'm onto something. Maybe this is helpful to some people. So if not, I'm trying to be more social because I'm a serial introvert. So this is a good compromise. Anyway, let me go and click on the video on my desktop so I can see if anyone posts any questions or anything. Oh, that's not it. Alright, I have to refresh my screen. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. Alright, so anyway, you can see that I changed the camera angle a little bit, which is why I have to kind of bend down to be visible in the frame. But you're not here to see me, you're here to see what I'm doing, so that's why I did that. So now you can hopefully, yeah, you can see my sewing machine and my ironing board, so you should be able to follow what I'm doing a little bit better. So, alright, so let's get started. One thing I did do off camera was, let me grab the photo of the finished bag. You can see that on one side there is a pocket here, and I had cut the side, which is underneath the pocket, and the pocket both out of glitter vinyl. And when you combine that with the glitter vinyl right here, and on the bottom, that's 3 layers of vinyl. And I'm sure an industrial sewing machine could get through that, but mine definitely cannot. So I went ahead and recut this pocket in the main comic book fabric here. And then I noticed that they only had the pocket on one side of the bag, and I don't know, I like things being symmetrical, so I'm putting a pocket on both sides of the bag. So I went and cut 2 of those. So everything else is the same as last week. Again, let me know if you're having trouble hearing me, or you need something explained, and we'll figure this out together. So we left off on step 3, which are the exterior top panels, mainly the zipper. So for this one, I believe it tells you to use a handbag zipper. Let's look. Well, it says, actually no, it says an all-purpose zipper. So an all-purpose one, let me grab an example here, excuse my reach. All right. This is what they're referring to when they say an all-purpose zipper. It's also known as a dress zipper or just a regular zipper. This is the one that's most commonly available in retail stores. However, I need to update the description and put a link to Zip It on Etsy, because if you buy these retail, you're going to overpay. And Zip It on Etsy sells the YKK brand, which is a quality zipper. I know you can get some on Amazon, but I would be a little suspicious of the quality of those because they're probably not a name brand like YKK. So anyhow, so yeah, this is considered a handbag zipper, and you can see the tape's a little wider. It's also known as a 4.5 zipper, whereas the all-purpose one I just showed you is known as a number 3 zipper. So the tape is a little wider, the teeth are wider, and then the pull itself is a lot bigger. So it just looks nicer on a handbag. So that's what I am using. And you can use any size as long as it's at least 14 inches for this bag, because if it's longer, you can just cut off the excess. Alright, so these are the exterior top panels. These are the ones that I attached the foam interfacing on last time, which I think it was 2 weeks ago. So let's see what it wants us to do. First, let's to pin the zipper. Since I'm using a vinyl, I can't leave pins again because that leaves permanent holes. So I'm going to grab a couple of these little clips. And if you didn't see the first video, these are known as wonder clips. These you can actually get a generic version of on Amazon and they work just fine. That's what these are. I do have the Clover brand as well, and they're just all mixed together, and I've noticed no difference in quality. And if you're new to sewing and don't want to go and spend all kinds of money on stuff, you can just use regular binder clips or even a clothespin. That should work too in most cases. Alright, so anyway, so it says pin the 14-inch zipper face down, so this is face up, that's face down, so the zipper pull is on the bottom. To the right side of a contrasting top panel, which is this, matching the long edge of the zipper to the straight long edge of the top panel and centering it so the metal stops are 1/2 inch from each end. Oh boy. Alright, so it's kind of a mouthful, huh? I can see how this could be very confusing for someone who is not very experienced in... I actually am experienced in making bags, and this is a little confusing. It's quite a long sentence, so let's just break it down. So we got the zipper, it's face down, and it's on the right side of a contrasting top panel. Alright, so we're matching the long edge of the zipper, so that's this edge right here, to a straight long edge of the top panel. So, oops. You can see how this is a straight edge and this is a curved edge, so we're attaching the zipper to this edge right here, the straight one. Again, making sure our zipper's face down. Alright, and we're centering it so the metal stops are 1/2 inch from each end. So this is a metal stop, and up here is a metal stop. That's what they're referring to. Since my zipper is much longer, it's going to be way more than 1/2 inch from each end, and that's fine because I'm just going to sew it all on and then I will trim the excess off later. Alright, so instead of pinning, you can see I'm clipping. And we're not damaging the vinyl. Plus, I can't imagine trying to jab a pin through this vinyl. It would be very difficult. Alright, and then also there's a note. It says if your zipper is wider than 1 inch, so let's go and see if this is. Yes, this is 1.25 inches wide. So then it says pin it to the top panel so that the long edge of the zipper extends past the edge of the top panel by about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so as you can see, mine is flush with the edge, so I need to just move it over about 1/8 of an inch. If you're not sure if it's 1/8 of an inch, you can always measure it. But I deal with measurements all day long, every day, so I can eyeball this and it'll be fine. Alright. There we go. Okay, so next we need to sew it 1/4 inch from the edge of the fabric, but not the zipper. So what I'm going to do is flip it around so I can see where 1/4 inch from the fabric is. Alright. Alright, so the problem with that is then my vinyl is going to be on the bed of the machine, and as you can see here, it doesn't exactly glide across. So some people put tissue paper underneath it. What I do is I just made this kind of wacky looking template, or whatever you want to call it, out of cardstock, and I'm just going to put it on the bed of my machine. It's like I might need to replace the tape. And the little cutout leaves the area underneath the presser foot unobstructed. Alright, let's get the tape on. Alright, so then it's not going to interfere with the operation of the machine, and it's not going to get caught in there. Alright, so that will allow this vinyl to glide across the bed of the machine. Alright, so I have set the stitch length to 3.0, and now I'm going to locate the 1/4 inch seam allowance, which is right here. And then an advantage to having your zipper be longer than necessary is that the zipper pull stays completely out of the way when you're sewing. Okay, so don't forget to back stitch. All right, let's see how it looks. I'm just gonna trim the threads. Okay, so it's not totally perfect, and I'm seeing a skip stitch here, so I'm gonna have to go over this again. That's odd. I'm not sure why I'm getting a skip stitch. I might have to try changing to a newer needle. All right. All right, hopefully that's stitched at this time. Yep. All right, we're all good. Okay, so we're going to just fold this over and have a look, and that looks good. All right, so let's see what the next step is. All right. And as you can see here, here's our seam. I didn't stitch through the foam interfacing, I'm just kind of next to it. All right, now it says to flip the zipper face up and away from the top and press. This is vinyl, so I will not be pressing it because it'll melt. So you just kind of have to do what's called finger pressing. So you're just kind of pushing down on it. All right. Okay, so the next step is to sew the other side on, and it's saying don't top stitch along the zipper. So it might, yeah, it looks like it'll have us do that later, judging by the pattern photo. All right, now let's make sure we get this right. So this is how it's going to end up. So we need to fold it over. So basically the right sides are together. So the right side would be the side with the pull. So make sure we sew this on correctly. And let me get the clips. All right, and let's make sure we line this up correctly so that the two top pieces are even. All right, I'm just gonna put a clip down here and then I'm gonna flip it over. Actually, no, I'm gonna keep it this way, but I need to move it over because again, this is a wider zipper, so I need to have it hanging over the edge by 1/8 of an inch. And it's fighting with me a little bit because the two pieces of vinyl are sticking together. It probably doesn't help that it's very humid in this in my workshop here. couple more. Okay, and here is what it looks like. All right, let's double check that everything is even. All right, looks good. All right, so same thing as before, 1/4 inch from the edge of the vinyl, not from the zipper because I'm using a wider zipper. Almost done. All right. Oh crap. See how I got the zipper caught in there? So I'll have to go over this seam again. And I'm noticing skip stitches as well, which is annoying, but that's probably an issue that is specific to my machine. Actually, I'll say it definitely is. There we go. So this is a little tricky to work with all this bulk. But just be patient and it'll be all right. All right, let's check it again. Yeah, I'm still getting skip stitches here. That is not good. All right, so I just need to go over this section again. All right, much better. All right, cool. Okay, so we're done with what is probably the most stressful part of this for many people, which is the zipper. So it is on, it's attached. All right, so now we can set that aside. So normally what I would do is make sure this is all flat on the back, and then I would set it on a flat surface with something heavy on top, like pattern weights or some heavy books. So I will do that later. And now we're on to the side panels, which is step 4. Okay, so this is the strap connector, and we need to fold that in half, wrong sides together, matching the 2 long edges, and press to make a center crease. Again, it's vinyl, so we can't do that, we can't press it, but what it's asking us to do is basically fold it in half so that the edges of the fabric, or the vinyl in this case, are in the center. So, like this. And then it wants us to fold it in half again. And what this is accomplishing is it is putting the raw edges of the vinyl inside of this little piece here so that they're not visible. Now the problem with the vinyl is that this is really thick, and I'm not terribly confident that this is going to sew well. So alright. And actually it's not having us sew it just yet because we need to fold it in half the opposite way next. Now using some fabric glue would be helpful in this scenario, but I'm trying to avoid that because it's super boring to watch somebody put glue on something, but I'm gonna have to just suck it up and do it. Alright. So just putting a little bit of glue along these edges. You don't need to put it all over the entire thing. I'm just waiting for the glue to get to the top. There we go. That should be sufficient. Alright. Alright, you know what, I think I read that wrong. You don't fold it again in this direction. You do it like this, and then you fold it in half like this. Alright, that makes more sense. Okay. Alright, now we got this, and now the next step is to cut it in half. So let me grab my heavy scissors. Alright, so there we go. Now we have 2. That was simple. Okay, so it says they should be 3/4 of an inch wide, 2 inches tall, and that looks about right to me. Alright, now we need to fold these in half. I'm not going to press because it's vinyl, and we're going to grab one of our D-rings and then slide it onto the ring, or slide it onto the connector, and then we're going to pin or glue to secure it. So you can either glue it or use a fabric clip if you're using vinyl. Alright, I'm going to glue it and clip it so it doesn't come apart. So, here's one. Here's the other D-ring. So we're putting that on. Our raw edges are in the inside. And I'm just going to apply a little bit of glue. I'm telling you, they need to make these glue bottles like the ketchup bottles where it's kind of upside down. Then you don't have to wait forever for it to reach the end. Alright, so anyway, there we go. Let's clip this one too, and there we go. Okay, we're on to the next page. We're on page 6. How lovely. Alright, so the next step is to sew, or actually top stitch along the edge. So here, here, and here. Since it's gonna go in the seam allowance up to right here, and I have no confidence that my machine will do a good job of top stitching this, I'm gonna skip that step. But, okay. Now we are onto the side panels. So that's these. Alright, so we are needing to mark the center along the straight top edge of both of these. So I'm folding it in half, and then I'm going to make a very tiny little snip. So it's not going in past the seam allowance, it's just a little bitty snip just so I can see where the center is. Alright, so I have done that. Then I need to attach the strap connector, center it over the mark. So that would be here. And then I need to machine baste that. So wish me luck. I'm going to increase my stitch length to 4. Just going to double check again, make sure this is centered. Yes, looks good. Move this out of the way. Alright. Okay, that's been basted. Okay, so looks like this. So we're going to do the same thing again for the other side panel. So fold it in half, make a tiny little cut at the top. You can also use a fabric pen or marker to do that marking as well, but I find it's just a little faster and easier to do it that way. Alright, and then centering this connector like that, then I'm going to go baste it. Alright, there we have it. Okay, so next, this is our side panel. We're going to pin it to the assembled contrasting top panels. So that's the thing we just did the zipper on. Alright, so here it is. So right sides together, matching the top straight edge of the side panel, which is this, to the short end of the top panels. Alright. I'm going to put this side up so I can make sure everything is all smoothed out where it's supposed to be when I sew this. And then after I sew this seam is when I'll cut this bit of zipper off. Alright, so I'm going to do the ends first. Alright, now this is going to be a little tricky because you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus that little seam allowance, so that's 7 layers of vinyl. If you're concerned about your machine going through all these layers, you could make like a connector out of fabric or ribbon instead, and that would eliminate 4 layers of vinyl, so that might make the difference between being able to complete this bag on your particular machine and not. So that's something to consider. I'm hoping that mine does. It usually does, but alrighty. Changing my stitch length back to 3. And then this needs to be sewn at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Alright. And then you need to back stitch over the strap connector just to make sure that it's a good strong seam. And then of course the beginning, the end of the seam. Machine's growling at me a little bit, but I think it's gonna make it. Alright, back stitching. Alright, let's see how it turned out. That doesn't look too awesome. Alright, I'm going to go over this again. Alright, let's see it now. Okay, much better. Alright, so here we have it. This is exciting. It's sort of looking like a bag. Alright, so we did that. Now we can cut off our excess zipper. Alright, very good. Okay, so now flip it up so all the panels are wrong side up, and then press the seam allowance toward the side, which again I can't do because this is vinyl, so I'm just going to press it. Flip right side up and top stitch across the top of the side panel. So that's right here. So then when you top stitch, it's going to stitch over the seam allowance also. Alright. I'm actually going to trim away some of this foam interfacing. I'll get some of this extra zipper too. Alright, so now we're going to do the top stitching, which I'm going to do at a 4 stitch length. Alright, and it says 1/8 inch from the seam. Alright, get my little jig. Help me through. That is not wanting to go. There we go. Alright, it's starting to really give me problems with all the bulk of this strap connector, so hoping this little jig helps. I think I'm gonna have to hand walk it, which means this little wheel on the side of your machine, you're just turning it towards you to move the machine to get it to sew manually, basically. And even now it's just really fighting me. So I'm kind of regretting my decision to make the strap connectors out of vinyl. I've done it before though, but I'm suspecting I need to take my machine in for servicing because it's way overdue. Alright, let's see if I can do it again. Yeah, it is mad at me. Okay, that is a mess. Yeah, it's getting thread tangled all over the place, and it is just all kinds of disgruntled. I'm going to try changing the needle. This is a good time to mention that my next sewing machine is, I'm pretty sure, going to be a Juki 2010Q. A lot of people who work with these types of fabrics and vinyls and things sew with those, particularly making bags, and are very, very fond of them. Sarah from Sew Sweetness has one, and she has a lot of videos as well for bag making. And she's a pro, so she obviously knows what she's talking about. Yeah, this top stitching looks like crap. Now I have to decide what to do. I think I might, and that's, actually I'm looking at the finished bag, and my pocket is gonna cover this area most likely, so I'm not gonna panic too much. So I'm just gonna sew at it from the opposite end and get as far as I can. Alright, so those of you who have the benefit of watching me struggle through this first, I'm going to go ahead and say make the connector out of something other than vinyl. Because man, that was a pain. Alright, having said that, I'm about to go do it again. Alright, so we're just clipping these together. Starting at the ends first, making sure everything is centered that way. And this part is important. I almost forgot to excuse me, I almost forgot to tell you, if your zipper pull is outside of the bag, this is the time you need to open it and push it into the bag so that it's on this side of the seam. Otherwise, once you sew over this, you won't be able to pull down that zipper, and it won't be part of your bag. So that's kind of a deal breaker. So make sure that you do that. This is somewhat frustrating. Alright, there we go. So the zipper teeth are touching. That's what we need. Back to a 3-stitch length, and let's sew this. I feel like I'm getting a workout from sewing, which is kind of sad. Alright, so I'm going to go over this again because more skip stitches. Alright, let's see how it looks. Alright, looks good. So I can trim off this excess zipper. Alright, I'm going to cut off some of this extra foam. Alright, let's do some more mediocre top stitching. Alright, let's hope for the best. Oh man. Alright, good enough. Alright, well, it's not like I'm selling this bag or anything, so it's not the end of the world that it isn't perfect. Alright, I'm glad this stuff is over. Alright, so that's done. So this is now the exterior gusset. Now we're onto the side pocket, which is not made of vinyl, so it should be a little easier. Alright, so let's clean up a little bit. Here's our side pocket. This is what I showed you at the beginning of the video. Now you can definitely see why I recut this in fabric instead of vinyl. Alright, so we're pinning these right sides together, the outer fabric and a lining fabric, and sewing these together along the top straight edge at 1/4 inch. And I pretty much decided my next bag I'm gonna sew on YouTube is gonna be little to no vinyl. Alright. That's a nice change of pace. It was a seam that went together easily. Alrighty. Flip them right side out, press along the seam. I'm actually going to press the seam open first. This is kind of a habit from dressmaking. I used to make all of my clothes, but that was when my body was easier to fit, when it was less three-dimensional. I have since mostly given up on sewing clothes unless they're very loose-fitting knits. Alright, so this is all pressed. Alright, so that's what that looks like. We don't want any lining peeking out, at least I don't, so I pressed it so there's a little bit of an overlap here. Alright, and I think I'm top stitching. Yep, top stitch 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Hey, that looks decent. Top stitching is way easier when it's not going through 7 layers of vinyl. Alright, so let's press this one also. I'm just going to press it to the side this time. Alright, and then top stitch this one too. Alright, top stitch this one. Alright. Next, pin the side pocket, lining side down to the contrasting side panel, which is part of this gusset at the closed end of the zipper. Well, we're doing it on both sides, so we're just going to pick one and attach it. Alright, so we are basting around this U-shaped portion right here. Add a 1/4 inch seam allowance, leaving the top open obviously, because that's supposed to be a pocket. Alright, so let me clip this together. One more. There we go. Alright, let's baste this. Alright, there you go. See, got a handy little pocket for your phone or whatever else you want to stick in there. Let's do the other one. All right. Okay, we're on to step 6, which is the piping. And that's the last step I'm going to do in this video, because I feel like I need a nap after all that vinyl sewing. Alright, so I like this pre-made piping because it's pre-made and it's pretty cheap, so that's what I'm using. Alright, so this is the piece that we're basting the piping onto. So start in the middle of the bottom edge of the side pocket. Alright, so that would be this, middle of the bottom edge of the side pocket. Pin or glue based, I'm going to clip it. So we're going to clip the piping around the outside of this contrasting gusset, set in from the raw edges, so the stitching in the piping, which is right on here, is a 1/2 inch from the edge of the panel. So that's how you end up with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Alright, so what you want to do is, we don't want this edge to be visible on the finished bag, so we're leaving some extra hanging there. And I'm going to use my sewing gauge and measure out a 1/2 inch so I get it right. Okay, so here's my 1/2 inch. There we go. And repeat. So you want to make sure that the actual piping part of the piping is facing toward the inside, so that after you sew it, it's facing out. I apologize in advance. This is probably not a very exciting thing to watch, but it's necessary. Oh, hold on. If you're not familiar with piping, this is the package that it comes in. Well, the label of the package. If you have the patience to go thrift shopping, you can find it in thrift stores quite often. I think a lot of people buy it with good intentions of using it and then never do, and then they donate it to a thrift store. Or it ends up in a estate sale. I've actually gotten some that way. The packaging, it's the same shape and size, but the label is different. It's got this older lady with this kind of helmet looking haircut. It's kind of wacky. Alright, so you can see I'm just measuring that 1/2 inch all the way around. It's very important to have an accurate seam allowance around the bag so it comes out symmetrical at the end. You're going to go through all this time and expense to make a bag like this. You want to make sure that it looks good and it's something that you're proud to carry. You're just going to use lots and lots of pins or clips. You've got them, so you might as well use them, right? Ooh, we're at the halfway point. I think I would consider this one of the more advanced bags, patterns, I mean, that's available right now that I know about. So if you happen to be a beginner who's watching this and thinking, oh crap, I could never make a bag, just keep that in mind. There are lots of really easy patterns. This one I mentioned last week is a Maisie bowler style handbag from Swoon Patterns. And if you go to swoonpatterns.com and go to their site and you click on the patterns, almost all of them have a difficulty rating. It's a like a 4, like out of 4 scale. This one is rated a 4 out of 4. So they have lots of them that are 1s, 2s, and 3s as well. So if you are a little concerned about tackling something like this, just make some of the easier ones first and then go for this one later. That's exactly what I did. I've made over 30 different Swoon bags. I have almost all of her patterns, and I kind of just worked my way up to this one. When you're measuring, make sure you don't accidentally move this little marker if you're using one of these little seam gauges to measure with. And this is going to be almost an entire package of piping, just this one little seam. Don't mind me, I'm just turning the air conditioning up. I am in Florida in August, and I feel like I'm constantly in an oven, and that's with air conditioning. I actually grew up in Wisconsin, and I'm still trying to get used to this completely opposite climate that they have down here versus Wisconsin, where it's freezing cold 8 months a year. But at least we don't have heating bills that are like hundreds of dollars. Alright, so this is the monstrosity that we have now. Okay, so we have done that. Got the extra piping at the edge. Alright. Now, use either a zipper foot or this walking foot works well for me. You're going to machine baste around this whole edge directly over the existing stitching on the piping. And then you're going to sew over the piping where it overlaps right here. Just like that.